Welcome to Speed Talk Live, which isn't really live, but a poorly produced podcast where we talk about NASCAR and all things racing. And occasionally we have a special guest or two, when we can get them to show up. Sit down, strap in, pull those belts tight. Speed Talk Live is on the air.
Pace car is in. Green flag. Green flag.
All right, welcome everybody. I took a week off. Don't judge. I didn't have a partner crime here, so I decided to take last week off. But we're back this week. So we got two races to talk about. Not just Iowa, but that one in New Hampshire, that kind of boring race that nothing happened. We'll get to that. But my buddy's back this week. Owen Johnson, back. They let him back in the country. Went to Peru. We're going to find out about that. Got a lot going on. Let's welcome back Owen. Hey, Owen, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Greg, I'm great. It's great to be back stateside for a long time now.
I know you're like the world traveler, man. So you're in Peru. Now tell me again what you were doing down there.
Yes, we were volunteering with a couple of local agricultural organizations up in the Peruvian Andes, working with local Quechuan farmers.
That's awesome. Amazing. All right, let's talk NASCAR because all they got in Peru is llamas. But listen, Blaney won Iowa, Ryan Blaney, and I'm glad he did. It was a great story, but here's the problem. I talked to Ryan Blaney for an article for Forbes. I had a one-on-one with him like 2 days going into Iowa. And it was a great article, and we were talking about how does he feel about the fact that he hasn't won late yet this year? Is he worried? And no, he wasn't. And then the crumb goes out and wins Sunday. So I had to, my article, it was on, it was from a company that sponsors it was Advanced Auto Parts that sponsors a contest he's doing. So, we had to talk about that, but we talked about a lot of other stuff, but the stuff was embargoed till that Monday after Iowa. So I had the article all nice and done and ready to go and put it in the queue at Forbes, and the editors gave it the thumbs up. And then he goes out and he wins the race. So, of course, I had to change it. That was a lot of fun. But the big news going into, obviously, Iowa happened on the Friday before when Martin Truex Jr., and we knew this was coming, finally made it official.
That's about the most nervous I've ever been coming in here. But obviously, if you've I guess the news has been on the internet all week, so you guys already know. I don't even know why I'm here, but no, honestly, here just to let y'all know that I will not be back full-time next year, but excited about the rest of the year, obviously, and it means the world to me to see Johnny Morris here. He's been, a huge supporter of mine, and, I wouldn't have been able to do, any of the things I've been able to do without him being behind me 21 years, so it's been incredible. It's been a hell of a ride. I'm excited about the future, and not really sure what that looks like yet, but feel good about my decision, and I just want to thank Coach and everybody at JGR Toyota. They've been absolutely amazing to to be able to win a championship is something I always dreamed of, and to be able to get that done was amazing, and just feel really lucky to be surrounded by a lot of great people over the years. So to all the guys I've worked with, crew members, crew chiefs, team owners, you name it across the board, it's been a true honor, and I'll miss all those people for sure. But I won't be gone. I'll be around still, and we're going to do some stuff together, have some fun, and enjoy life a little bit and wind down.
And, of course, Ryan Blaney, defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, finally wins a race. And he said afterwards, which I thought this was kind of funny, Gateway, the race from the 2 weeks prior, when he ran out of gas, taking the white flag, allowing Austin Cindric to win, was still played on his mind.
Deja vu, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that did kind of go through my head, right? Just trying to, it's normally in my mind, it's like just get to the white, and now I'm less like, I don't care about getting to the white. Let's just get to the checkered, and yeah, I don't know. It's kind of normal thoughts, but then the pain of 2 weeks ago, it just always pops up in your head. But I try to forget about it and just focus on, the gap we had and try to keep it and all that. But yeah, I had some thoughts of that. Luckily, tonight it went smoothly.
So as him and I talked about before we went into this race, he was on the bubble, and he was firm. He was in on points, but he really needed to win. If we get too many first-time winners, it won't matter how many points you'll have. But he needed that. But even he was asked about this after his win, if he really watches points. And I knew what the answer was going to be, because it's pretty much word for word what he told me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't look at it like every day. Like, I'll look at it Sunday night when it comes out, when y'all put it out, and okay, there it is. Like, and I don't really pay attention to it the rest of the week. But I did, it was concerning when we had that stretch of bad races, like Darlington, wrecking early at Charlotte, not finishing well at Gateway. I was like, man, we're kind of getting a little close to the cut line, but we had a good day at Sonoma and kind of buffed it. And then tonight we had a really solid night. So I did look at it a second. I was like, man, it got to just be like, we don't have a lot of wiggle room left, and but I don't really pay attention to that stuff too much. I look at it once and then just figure out, okay, can I get to these guys in front of me this weekend maybe if I'm a few points away? And you think about that kind of during the stages and stuff. But other than that, I don't really look at it. So it's nice not to have to look at it in that regard anymore. You just try to see where you're at in points for playoff points, stuff like that.
So when Owen came back in the country and they let him back in, and he made it through customs. I'm assuming you made it through customs. One of the first stories when you came back in was Gene Haas, Stuart Haas Racing, soon to be Haas Racing, is keeping a cup charter. So I know you reported on that. Tell me your thoughts about that, Owen.
Right, so that'll be the Haas factory team, which is sort of a return to form for Gene Haas. He started in NASCAR in the early 2000s with his own cup team, partnered alliance with Hendrick Motorsports back then, ran Chevys, ran Pontiac for a bit, but pretty much always Chevys, before getting a partnership with Tony Stewart that formed Stewart Haas. That team was a powerhouse in NASCAR for over a decade, but shut down. We covered that a couple of shows ago. Massive news, will shut down at the end of this year. They're going to keep one charter with the Haas factory team, though. One cup charter as well as the Stewart Haas Xfinity team. Now, one thing that's interesting is who the president of that team will be. It's going to be Joe Custer, who is, of course, the father of current Xfinity Series driver for Stewart Haas, Cole Custer. The team also has Riley Herbst in the Xfinity Series, Ryan Preece, Noah Gregson, and Josh Berry in the Cup Series. Obviously, we know that Chase Briscoe is going to the 19 next year, but it's a new seat available probably for Cole Custer in the Cup Series. He started in the Cup Series, had 3 years in it, got one win during that time, but never managed to back up the win. But he's an Xfinity Series champion now, so he certainly has the pedigree. Probably one of the better drivers, probably in the garage, and I think deserving of a Cup seat.
And a fun fact, Joe Custer. You mentioned Joe Custer. He's kind of the de facto president at Haas Racing. He runs the day-to-day operations, takes care of all that. And you mentioned, Cole's his son. Now I'm not opposed to Cole Custer. He's done well. He's a talented race car driver. And yes, he has the position that his dad happens to be the de facto president of the team. And funny story, in Phoenix last year when Cole Custer won the Xfinity Championship, it's been so long since I've seen Gene Haas at a racetrack. I came in and Joe Custer was sitting in a chair right beside me, right beside where I'm at in the media center. And I said, "Hi, Gene." And he just looked at me deadpan and say, "It's Joe." And so that was my embarrassing moment. But you're right. It could be that we could see Cole Custer back in the Cup Series with this Haas factory team. And he actually was asked about it, obviously. And this is what he said at New Hampshire.
I mean, I'd love to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's always, that's what my career's been, I guess, is, it's always tied, that relationship. But at the end of the day, I think, what Gene Haas has done in this sport, and, it would be a dream come true to get to run that Cup car, But for me, I mean, I'm focused on this weekend and trying to figure out how to win here. But obviously for me, I've tried to go back to the Xfinity Series, prove what I can do, and try and make the most of it. And you just kind of try and hope it all sorts itself out from there.
Or maybe it was Iowa. I don't, wherever. So he's obviously not opposed to it. And again, I think he's got the talent for it. And I think that a lean Stewart Haas former racing organization is going to do quite well. And I see that Next year it's going to be interesting to see. And as you mentioned, Chase has got a seat. We're going to talk about that later. But
I am hesitant slightly because the announcement included absolutely no details at all. They talk about wanting to potentially form an alliance, work with manufacturers, but they have no details on manufacturers, no details on partnerships. We don't even know if they'll still be racing Ford next year. We do know, obviously, they'll have Haas support and sponsorship, but other than that, no partners either. So I'm a little bit hesitant. I think the team certainly has the infrastructure. They'll be able to keep all of the Stewart Haas infrastructure, use that, but hopefully they sort out the alliance, they sort out the manufacturer too, and then can hopefully run up front with that.
I think they're going to be a much more competitive team than they have been in the last couple of years. They just haven't been there where they, back in their glory days. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And you're right. I think Haas Automation makes enough money where he can support the team financially, and I think that's the reason that Gene Haas wants this, is to continue to advertise his company, which is very successful. But you're right. We're gonna have to see if they can get some more partners, and who they're gonna put in that seat. I really would be shocked if it wasn't Cole. It makes perfect sense. So we'll see about that. So that was Cole Custer comments about that. And again, I can't remember if it was Iowa or New Hampshire, but we did go to New Hampshire. And of course, we ran all the scheduled laps. This race, man, I thought when the rains came and they halted the race, it was over halfway. And I'm so used to, in the years past, okay, the race is official. Tyler Reddick was leading. Okay, so let's wait. We don't have lights. And we're going to turn around and go home. Well, they waited. People were complaining. We'll get in rants about that later, but people were complaining because they were waiting. There was a severe thunderstorm warning at the track, so they had to clear the grandstands. So I get it. And then it rained, and then it stopped, and they were still waiting, and they're still waiting. All of a sudden, they send the jet dryers out, and they send the Tundras out, the Mighty Air Titans, but it wasn't to dry the track. It was to take the standing water away on pit road and near the walls, and it wasn't about drying the track. It was about getting it ready to race. They strapped on these damp tires, these wet tires, and they not only completed the remaining laps in the race, they added a couple extra for overtime. Now, this race, it was amazing to see 5, 6, 7 wide, guys running on the apron, guys coming, outside the wall. It was a fantastic race. The dirt trackers came to the forefront, those, and Josh Berry, who not a dirt tracker, but he races on these short tracks. And he knows how to adapt a car to conditions. And then there was Christopher Bell. He swept the weekend, won the Xfinity race the day before. And of course, then he went on to win the race on Sunday on rain tires. And here's what he had to say about it.
What race do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about Loudon dry or Loudon wet? But it was literally the tale of two completely different events. And obviously the rain completely shook up what was going on track. And in the dry, we started off really well. I was able to, get the lead in the first stage, and then Martin really came on there in stage 2. So definitely, I think that we had some room to improve on the dry stuff. Like, I'm not sure that I definitely didn't have the dominant car. And then whenever the wet came, it was just like, we might as well have been at somewhere completely different. And so it was just so fun to get to experience that, run whatever it was, 80 laps in wet tires and wet, damp conditions. So, just a lot of fun. That was so much fun.
So I know, in your world, Owen, this is kind of new for you. For me, when it rains, that's it. We're pretty much done, especially at a track that's got no lights. If a track's got lights, we're going to wait. But give me your thoughts on what you saw on Sunday at New Hampshire.
Well, we learned from the Coke 600 that even if the track does have lights, we won't always get back to be able to get back to racing. So I really didn't expect to go back to racing at all. I was onto the IndyCar race at Laguna Seca, but I was very pleasantly surprised, and I thought the racing product was really good. We have an article up on Cup Scene talked to Elton Sawyer about why we couldn't go back to racing a little bit earlier. We'll get to that, I think, more in rants. But in terms of what NASCAR was able to do, clearing the thunderstorm, waiting until it was safe, and then putting the cars out on track, I thought turned into a really good product. We talked after Bristol about wanting to put some of the performance back in the driver's hands. I don't think there's anything that's more in the driver's hands than when the cars cannot run anything up to their potential, and it's all up to the drivers to eke out as much grip as they can personally find. So I think it really showed some of the talent of these drivers, some interesting drivers coming to the front. Justin Haley, I was really impressed with in the 51. He's been outperforming this season. Some of the Stewart Haas drivers, Chase Briscoe and Josh Berry, I think, who were 2-3 at the end. Great finish for them as well. So I think it really just showed some of the skill of the drivers, put on a great show, like you said, at 5, 6, 7 wide in New Hampshire. I've never seen that before. But definitely a pleasant surprise to get back to racing, and I hope we can get used to this when it comes to some rain showers, at least short tracks, at least.
Exactly, and it makes me when I look at these tracks, other than super speedways, now like Nashville this weekend, we got Nashville Sunday. It's a concrete track, and there's a forecast of rain. Normally that would be gloom and doom, but now after what I saw Sunday, I'm almost like, okay, let's let it rain. Let's let it just rain enough. So we mentioned Chase Briscoe. He was second Sunday, much needed second place, and that was the day after Christopher Bell kind of mistakenly let loose the news about Chase joining the team. I mean, we all knew it, and I'm happy for Chase. Chase is a great guy. He's always been good to me. We exchanged texts and different things. I talked to him before the news was official, and I asked him about, because what I wanted to know about, when you get a pink slip, now you're not old enough to have this happen yet. I've worked in the media for years, and in the media, it's not uncommon to get laid off. So it's happened to me a couple times. I wanted to just seriously know, as bad as it sucked to have, his hero come talk to him. I wanted to know what it was like for a driver. I mean, you got to go out and get a job, right? You got a family. He's got his son. His wife is pregnant with twins, for God's sakes. So I asked him during a couple days before the announcement about that, and before it was official. And this is what he told me. On a serious kind of note, I don't want to drag it down, but when you got the news about Stewart Haas, I mean, it sucks. I know it was your dream to be there and stuff. I'm just kind of curious, and I'm looking for the business aspect of it. How does that work from a driver standpoint? Because I mean, like when I get laid off from jobs, and I've been laid off from plenty, you start shotgunning resumes out and you start working within your network. How does that work for a driver? I mean, are you waiting for phone calls? Does your agent take care of that stuff? How does it work in terms of starting to search for that next opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been no different than what you were saying, right? Just everybody I know kind of reaching out, telling them that I was available. I think that was the big thing is, up until SHR told us what was happening, 2 weeks ago now, I wasn't allowed to go talk to other people, because we didn't know if there was still going to be one charter or two, or, obviously ended up being all four, but I didn't know what the cards were going to be yet. So that was the first thing I actually asked when Tony set all the drivers down. He said, do you guys have any questions? I said, yeah, what does this mean for us as far as being able to talk to other teams? And he said, you guys are free to do whatever you want. So literally while I was sitting in the room, I started texting different people, just letting them know that, hey, I'm going to be available and I need to try to find something. So yeah, it's really no different. I think you just still are trying to put yourself out there and let people know that you're available and go talk to them and meet them and do whatever you have to do. And then, also try to obviously perform on the racetrack and show your worth. And, I definitely think that this is one of the more, unique and just interesting silly seasons. And the fact that there is so many drivers, we've never really been in a situation where there's this many drivers that are already in the Cup Series looking for a job. But then also you have the normal, Xfinity and truck guys trying to move up too. So, just trying to make sure that I'm not left out. I don't have anything to fall back on. I'm not like some of the other people where, they have a family business or something like that. And, with a 2.5-year-old and a wife, and then twins on the way. I definitely can't afford to be left out and not have anything. So I've just been really trying to do everything I can to, put my best effort forward on the racetrack and obviously off the racetrack too, and just trying to, prove my worth to whoever may be out there looking.
So those text messages seemed to work, because he indicated in his press conference when the announcement was made that literally one of the people that reached back out to him was Joe Gibbs Racing. One thing led to another, and now he's going to be signed. I am so thrilled for him. He has got a chance to really shine now, in arguably the best equipment that's put on the track. Look at Bell's winning. And Truex has been running strong. Denny's struggling a little bit, but he still has the potential to come back. So it's great. I was really thrilled for Chase and wish him well. And I just thought it was funny they used Bell to actually introduce him during the press conference on whatever day that was at JGR. So that was cool. So I'm really, really happy. And I know for you, Owen, you haven't really necessarily, been around for years. So silly season is just kind of, really silly for you, but I'm kind of wondering what you think about this whole move of putting Chase in that number 19.
Yeah, I think it's actually a really good fit for Briscoe because he reminds me in a couple of ways of Martin Truex. Obviously, a driver who sort of worked his way up from, in Truex's case, obviously lower on the grid, but underperforming cars that he was able to get the most out of, getting into that 19 car and having a huge career renaissance, or actually in the 78, winning the championship with the support of Gibbs in that case. But moving up in his career to these really fast cars and showing the results for it. I think that's what I expect to see from Chase Briscoe, because I think he's been consistently outperforming the Stewart-Haas equipment. He last season, especially, the team really struggled, but he, even with a penalty, was consistently outperforming his teammates, even in the points. So I expect good things from Chase Briscoe. I think it's going to be great to see him in really fast equipment, which Stewart-Haas hasn't really been able to give him, but he's still been able to win even in that equipment with Stewart-Haas. So I have high expectations. I think it's a great fit. I think he reminds me in a lot of ways of Martin Truex, sort of similar demeanor, similar focus on the track. And I look forward to seeing the 19 car back in victory lane next year.
And I think back to, I knew Chase when he was coming up, and obviously when you're a young driver like that, and he was sleeping on people's couches and looking for a ride, he would befriend us in the media because that's what you do. And he was just always so good to me. And I remember the heartbreak when he won at Darlington during COVID, won the Xfinity race there on the same day he learned that his wife had miscarried. But now, he's got his little one there, and she's having twins. So I think it's a good lesson, a good object lesson that you never know. You're at a low point in your life and you never know what's going to come down the pike. Right. And you never give up. I remember I worked in a local TV station here. This has been you were probably in elementary school. And I went in, I was a digital producer and they let me do some NASCAR stuff. So I was doing NASCAR stuff and I came into work one day, about 3 weeks after I closed on my first house. And they said, your job's eliminated. That's it. You're done. And turned around and walked out. That was the lowest point in my life. I thought, there's nothing. I got the house, I've got the family, what am I going to do? And a month later, I was in France getting ready to cover Formula One racing. So, and making very good money. So you never know. And in the case of Chase Briscoe, I'm sure it was the lowest of the low the day, Tony brought them into the conference room and told him that, to the highest of the high. Now he's going to be with one of the best teams in the history of NASCAR, one of the oldest teams now, running for a Hall of Fame owner like he was with Tony Stewart. So it's going to be exciting to see. I'm looking forward to it. And obviously what happens the rest of the year. All right.
Just rant and rave like you do to the TV during sport.
All right, let's go back to New Hampshire and talk about that rain delay. So when the rains came, people were automatically saying, why didn't you run some more laps? Why didn't you run some more laps? The track, the rain hasn't started yet. They had lightning within 8 miles. So there was on the lightning clock. So they stopped the race. That's what they have to do. And sometimes what the newer people don't understand is, and don't think back to, fans get killed at these races by lightning strikes. It's happened. I was at a race in Dover, and I believe it was 1984, when somebody got hit with lightning in the stands. So, I mean, and then it happened at Pocono. So I applaud NASCAR for that. Let's stop the race. Let's get the people out of the stands. And people were complaining, oh, it's going to rain, and now it's raining, and oh, we're going to have to wait. Why don't they just call the race, make Tyler Reddick the winner, and let's move on? And then people were saying, oh, it's coming up to 6:00. IndyCar is going to be going on at Laguna Seca, and they're going to wait till the top of the hour, and then they're going to call it, which didn't happen. And it was such poetic justice to me when they brought out those track dryers, and they started that, and they put those wet tires on and went out and had, boys and girls, one hell of a race. And it was fun to watch. And we already talked about it. If it rains in Nashville this weekend, let it rain. That's fine, as long as it's not too heavy. We put the wet tires on. Now, there was still some controversy. They had non-competitive pit stops. There was some confusion over, should we let them, as the track dried a little bit, should we let them put on slicks? And I think it's still a work in progress. And until NASCAR's really worked something out, they tested these tires a lot, but until they've really worked it out in competitive fashion, and when points are on the line, I don't blame them for taking their time. The non-competitive pit stops were fine. And like you mentioned, Owen, Elton Sawyer, the NASCAR's vice president of competition, met with the media and admitted they still had some work to do. And as you reported, they were fully aware of what was going on with the non-competitive pit stops, right?
Right. And I think we'd all love to see different strategies in NASCAR with teams putting on slick tires earlier, maybe jumping to see if they can get to the lead. I think that would be great. But like Sawyer said, there's really only, 3 data points now. If you the Cup Series at the All-Star Heat qualifying races 2 years ago now, last year now, Richmond earlier this year, one truck race at Martinsville, and then this. So the data points are really limited. This is going to be a key data point for them as well. So hopefully going forward, we can figure out how to do this safely. But there's no benefit to putting the pit crews through this on a slick pit road. There's no benefit to having cars out on slick tires when it's probably unsafe for them to be on tires that slick. Once NASCAR understands it and has a more published rules on it, I think it'll be great going forward. But for what we got now, I'm absolutely happy after the race.
And maybe they'll do some practice this weekend. I mean, let's see. Maybe they'll have a practice. Maybe they're talking to teams. We don't know. But all in all, I thought it was poetic justice. The whiners on Twitter talking about, what NASCAR was doing, and NASCAR turned around and thumbed their nose at them, and it was fantastic. So that's my our rants for this week. So let me turn our attention, go back to New Hampshire. I want to talk about Joey Logano and Kyle Busch. Logano was the only Team Penske driver without a win this season. He finished a miserable 32nd Sunday, and left the track without talking to anybody, which I guess you can't blame him. But I think that he's going to turn things around. I really do. I think he's had some bad racing luck. Unlike Kyle Busch, who is a winner across everywhere, he can race up, and he just seems, I don't know what's going on there. He spun a couple times Sunday. He finally crashed out under caution before they went back to racing with the wet slick tires and crashed out. I know that there's got to be something going on behind the scenes, and I know he's got to be frustrated. I know Mr. Childress has got to be frustrated. And then Tuesday, Richard Childress announced that his longtime competition executive Andy Petrie was retiring, effective immediately. Keith Rodden has been appointed interim competition director. I thought that kind of odd. Is that a switch that he's making, that maybe it's coming down from the top? I mean, normally what you'll see is they'll swap crew chiefs, they'll swap pit crews, different things. But now he's got his. I think Andy's been in the sport for 55 years. He was Dale Earnhardt's crew chief, for God's sakes, and now he's suddenly retiring. Is that a sign that there's something going on there, and maybe some stuff we're not seeing? Are the problems coming down from the top? Only time will tell, but I really think that Bush is in some serious trouble there, and they're really going to have to get a lot of work in to turn that program around. But let's talk about Logano. Logano, I think, has had just some bad luck. I don't think there's anything systematic because Austin Cindric's been competitive. He won a race. Ryan Blaney's been competitive. He won a race. I think there's just some bad luck going on there. But you being the future lawyer that you are, you kind of break stuff down, right? So there's also some positive things coming from Logano that we're not really, most of us aren't seeing, right?
Well, yes, even in New Hampshire, obviously he finished a dismal, 32nd? But that was a result of contact after pit strategy put him a little bit further back in the field. Like the same story as Sonoma. He keeps running up front. And the evidence of running up front is the stage points he got. I believe he was second in the first stage and fell a little bit further back in the second stage, but still got a whole host of stage points, which are really helpful because even though, like you said, it's very unlikely that all the points positions will be available every time we get a new winner that takes away a points position in the playoffs, there still probably will be some points positions, and Logano can race his way in on points even if he can't get a win. So things are looking good for Logano. He's had good runs, like we said, Sonoma, New Hampshire. He's been up front, even if the results have not remotely reflected it. Somehow he needs to not be involved in contact, not be wrecking out through events that in those two races weren't his fault at all. Obviously, Penske, their third car, which hasn't won for a while, the two won this year. So I think the team overall is really strong. I think Logano will probably get a win this year. He's shown speed. Somehow the execution is mostly through no fault of his own failed.
Yep. So we're on the same sheet of music there. I think you're right. I think we're going to see Logano in victory lane. Maybe it's going to be this weekend in Nashville as we go there. And again, we don't mind if it rains. We know that. It is forecast. We'll see. Ross Chastain won there last year. But, as much as I love Ross, fellow Floridian, and he's always been good to me, I think last year was a one-off. I don't know. We'll see. He could do it again, but, I wouldn't be shocked if he won, but I don't look for him to be, like a perennial favorite at Nashville Super Speedway. But then again, Trackhouse based out of there. They have a lot of business there, so that could be the motivation. So maybe we'll see that. I'll tell you, I'm looking at is Martin Truex. Now that he's got the weight off his shoulders, he was second there last year. So I think he wants to definitely win and make the playoffs going out. It would be a mic drop moment, man, if he got the Phoenix in the Final Four and won the title, and now that he's in it, that would be fantastic. I would love that. But we'll see. So I think Truex, but somebody else that needs a win is Hamlin. Denny Hamlin's been up front a lot this year, but I think he suffers from kind of the same thing with Logano. He's having some problems, pit stops and some contact and different things. So, but bottom line, I think you're going to see a JGR car, whether it's Truex or Hamlin. I think it's going to be one of them. And Bell could go back to back, but I think we're going to see Truex or Hamlin in victory lane Sunday. Who you got?
I agree with you. I think the Gibbs are really strong. The Gibbs cars are really strong, especially in the shorter tracks. But I think just looking at the history of Nashville Superspeedway, we've been there 3 races. 2 of them have been won by Hendrick cars. First, Kyle Larson, second, Chase Elliott. I think it's going to be a Hendrick car, and I think Larson, who has been so strong this season, just racking off the wins, will get another one at Nashville Superspeedway. But my pick overall is going to be the Hendrick organization. I think they'll unseat Gibbs for this one.
Okay, you got Hendrick. I got JGR. We'll see. We both hope that it rains, but not too much. We hope that it there's enough. We'll put those wet tires on. I'm glad you made it back from Peru. Did you ride a llama? Let me ask you that.
I did. I rode a horse. I did not get on the llamas.
Okay, well, all right. I won't hold that against you. Anyway, thanks, Owen. I appreciate it. For all your hard work. You'll have a preview out this week. Look for that on cupscene.com. And look for us at a track sometime. We're going to get together at a track sometime, somewhere, before he heads back to England and law school. But thanks for joining us. Make sure you make sure you subscribe. By the way, we got merch selling. Go to cupscene.com, buy some merch, help support us. And I promise you, I'm not going to take another week off. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening to Speed Talk Live. For questions or just to tell us how bad our production is or to leave other feedback, leave us a comment below. For all the latest NASCAR news, visit www.cupscene.com. Until next time, peace out and let's go racing.
All right, there's the checkered flag. Great job, driver.